So what I'm going to do this year for UCAT prep is actually give you more of an approach, and really it's going to serve as a guide to help you strategy, and I'll point you towards some resources. But really, when it comes to changes for the UCAT this year, the biggest change that has happened is people's behavior towards it. And what you find is that it leaves people in one of two camps. Either the person who kind of gets it and does quite well and goes through the whole thing quite smoothly and gets a good result because of that and gets their pick of their med schools or dental schools. But then you get the other person who doesn't get what I'm about to show you, and that leaves them finding it really difficult, struggling, being overwhelmed, and eventually probably having to compromise on what universities they can go to, and maybe even risking not getting in at all. So these are the people who get fooled by the TikTok videos. You know, you see a 30-second hack on how to do this and you think that, oh, you're wiser than everybody else who hasn't seen those things, that it's somehow going to help you get a better score, and ignore that it's actually something that deserves a lot of respect. It deserves your time. Getting into medicine, getting into dentistry, these are still some of the most difficult professions. Why do you think that it's not going to attract some of the smartest people, and therefore the process itself is going to be quite hard? People underestimate it and they get smacked in the face with the reality when they come to sit down and actually do that exam and realize, oh God, it's actually a lot more difficult than TikTok videos might suggest. And you may or may not know this, but last year was a record high for the number of people taking the UCAT. Not only that, the rate of increase is increasing as well. So it's not just going like that each year, it's actually going more like that. So it's really important. And that's why people need to give it the respect it deserves. It is a tricky profession to get into. Smart people apply to it. And it's a difficult application process to distinguish amongst those people. Anyone who tells you different is just being naive. But not only that, when the numbers go up, not only does it drive up the average, which is due to the competition, and you can see the average UCAT score going up steadily over the last several years, it also means that in the deciles, so how the UCAT scoring works, which I can describe in this video here, you can see that it's divided into deciles, so in every 10% of people. Now, if you had 30,000 people divided amongst deciles, that means in each decile you've got 3,000 people. Where it's 41,000 plus like it was last year, that means you've now got 4,100 in each decile. So not only is it important to get a high score, but once you even get into those higher ranges, you're still amongst a bigger pool of people competing, which is why everything that I'm going to say here today is to help you understand that you need to give it the respect and the attention that it deserves if you really want to get into a competitive medical school, competitive dental school, or just to get a place at all these days. Now, enough about me berating you why it's important. Let's talk about our approach for how we're going to do well. Now, the biggest thing that people misunderstand or don't appreciate at this time until it's too late when they get to the summer and they're in it is that it's not just about the UCAT when it comes to your medical or dental school application. It's also about preparing and cocooning time for the UCAT amongst everything else that you've got going on. So as you'll have heard me say, in an ideal world, people who are preparing for medical or dental school applications should be doing it as they enter year 12 or as they kind of enter their penultimate year of university, because that gives you the time to do everything that you need to and cordon off some time to dedicate to the UCAT. So when you think about, say, between January and September when you go to submit your application, you're going to have things like you need to build work experience, you need to build experience in general in your CV for applying to university. You're also going to have some exams during that time. And then also there's everything about the UCAT, but all the rest of the application stuff that will be happening, like personal statements and putting all of that application together, choosing universities. These are all big factors that need attention in themselves. And what people do is that they kind of think, oh, it's fine, I'll do it later. And when they get to the reality of it, this is what I mean about these two camps of people. There are those who prepare, but then there are those who get the shock of when they have all of this to do, they get overwhelmed, they can't give each thing the attention that it deserves and that it needs to do well in. And then all of a sudden, they're kind of backpedaling and they're on the back foot trying to play catch up. Whereas those who listened to this story and started paying attention, started working on things now, are kind of quietly smiling to themselves because it's been a much easier journey for them. And because it's been an easier journey, they can put more attention and effort into each single stage, and that means they'll do better. That's why I'll quickly mention the Future Doc program. You can get more information up here. But what I would say is the two things that we'll do is make sure that you stay on track and stay focused on the things that you need to at the right time to kind of maintain that calm as you go through it. But also you'll maximize and make sure that you nail every single aspect of it so that you're confident in the knowledge that you've done everything right and you don't have to be worrying about like, oh, did I make a mistake here? Is this really the best it could be? That is one thing that we can guarantee that you will have absolutely nailed each aspect if you come and get our help. Because preparing is a sprint and the UCAT is a sprint in itself, and you'll hear a lot about UCAT burnout, and it's very true, but what they don't tell you is that there are basically two halves of UCAT prep. And the ones that get this right are the people who start early, and they're the people that when it comes to summer, they're places like your Oxfords, your King's College Londons are a possibility because they've got it right and they've done well and they've got a score that gives them a chance of getting in. But the people who don't understand this, they essentially throw away that opportunity because they've put themselves in a bit of a desperate position and they're panicked, and then they kind of end up in that stage where they go, God, I'll just be happy if I can get a place anywhere at this stage. So the two lessons that I want you to take forward are start early. It's so incredibly important, and not just on the UCAT, but on everything around it to either get it out of the way or nail it so that you've got space to really focus on it. And then the second thing, and this is the main principle, there's a difference between learning mode and exam mode. You'll see in the video where I talk about the plan for how to, so the best preparation plan for UCAT, you'll see that I do it in 3 phases, but really you can categorize it into 2 halves. The first is what you call learning mode. And what I'd like you to imagine is if you've ever heard of the show, the 1% Club or something like that, or think of when you do an IQ test, think of that as like the game, right? That's the thing that you have to nail, that you have to perform and do well on the day. But what do people do to prepare for that? They don't do high intensity IQ tests, or they won't be doing the 1% Club every single day. What they'll be doing is things like a Sudoku, for example. Not necessarily that, but that's an example. It's the kind of thing like a crossword where people do it to sit down at slow pace and relax. And when you're thinking about the UCAT, the first thing that you need to do is that slow paced, relaxed, understanding the questions and kind of refining the techniques and understanding the best way to do it. That is the learning phase. That is almost like getting the reps in, understanding the kind of muscle memory for when you see questions, how to go about them and what to do for that. Now, I can recommend a good resource for that, which is a video. Well, I've done a whole playlist, in fact, of me going through different question types and me talking through how I answer them, which is a really valuable thing. But again, this is just understanding the basics and knowing what's coming up and having that kind of really well drilled in before you move on to the second phase, which is exam mode, and that's all about speed. So that is the game day IQ test 1% Club type thing that you need to be ready for and kind of ready to perform on demand. But the most sustainable long-term tactic is to, like I say, get that base level of understanding in and then up the ante when you get close to your exam. Like I say, that's why the context of everything else is so important, because you need to have nailed, you need to have done this stuff before your exams so that you're kind of in the mode of thinking about it. Then you can switch gears and move to your exams, get your work experience done, get all of that stuff done, then refocus on the UCAT just so that you are kind of fully in that mode. But that's why the context is so important. Now, if you want a really good free resource, go to the future.doc website and go to the resources page, and we have a kind of step-by-step UCAT guide for how to get a really top score. But remember, the most important thing, start early, and remember you have learning mode and exam mode. The sooner you start and kind of get the reps in with learning mode, the easier the next thing will be. So if you want some more videos on UCAT and how to really nail it, check this video out here. Otherwise, if you want our help and you want some one-on-one support to get into your chosen medical or dental school, check out the Future Doc program here, and we would love to help you and help you write your own story.